The Allegorhythm. Samsara is a dark entity in Buddhist teachings. It must do all it can to maintain its existence by keeping you in ignorance and enslave your immortal soul. At the time when I was writing this chapter, it just came as an imaginative story. As I was writing, however, it turned out to be very similar to the Matrix concept, and later I find out it was very similar to samsara. Actually, it is samsara. That we are all living in a matrix-like virtual world. There was a certain click on the information that somehow there are fragments of truth. A year later, I had a terrifying vision of a similar reality. The terrifying reality of this matter is not the apocalypse, not even the collapse of the planets, but the total annihilation of your immortal soul. I published this book on Amazon, but later, however, after I found out that this chapter specifically is the most important of all, I decided to publish the entire book here on this channel. Religion, government, and science can't save you, as they are all agents of the same thing. You can save yourself by elevating through letting go of all these illusions, by not identifying yourself with this illusion. That there are dark forces keeping us captives on this reality. No matter how many powers we have to be able to fight it. We simply can't get out, by sheer willpower. Now in the vision, I asked a question. How can we escape this algorithm? The answer was simply that we need to multiply from within. In a sense of growing from within, only then we can exit it. At this time, I as the author, my mission is to awaken people from this illusory world. Because of the complexity of concepts in this information, it requires attention, focus, and steady concentration. It is represented in a form of a story. Because it speaks directly to your heart. Every individual has their own unique way of understanding and digesting information. I have also noticed there rises drowsiness, a sudden loss of interest and staying focused, and elements of destruction as one listens to this information. There is indeed a malevolent force that doesn't want you to know your true nature. So as you read this, pay attention to those elements that stir you away from staying focused. Awaken from your endless dream. The Allegorhythm. Chapter 5. A recap. Encountering Agu was more than a revelation to Rudy. But it feels like Agu had unleashed a burden of truth on Rudy's shoulders. Rudy had learned many things, unbelievable and straight out of the science fiction and fantasy world. Rudy had become aware of his true origins, that he is a prime. The concept of a prime is that he is some kind of a receiver, and an oasis of information and energies from the prime reality. His secondaries are what many would call a soul group. His secondaries include humans, animals, plants, even the elements. However, because of the elusive powers that be, the cosmic neural networks that connect all the realms have been infested, intercepted, and exploited, to the point that any information and energies coming from the prime reality is no longer reliable, which caused the deity Agu to meet him inside an undetectable rhinoceros consciousness to reveal Rudy's dark history. Rudy's daughter Malkia is in a coma. We have learned that his mission into the mysterious land was to save his daughter's life. But another strange and unacceptable truth, according to Agu, is that Rudy is also in a coma, and not just an ordinary one, but he has been in a coma for over 30 circles. How is this possible? How could Rudy be in a coma while he is trying to save his daughter's life, who is also in a coma? To unravel these mysteries, we have yet to dig deeper into Rudy's origins. Yet another reality. As Augie was speaking to me, she started humming. The kind of humming that made my body start vibrating. Slowly I started to become larger, everything became smaller and smaller. Augie's forest was only a portion of a microscopic cell within a tiny creature when looking from higher above. As we kept on becoming larger and larger, we resurfaced on another plane of reality. We appeared in another place. This place had lots of dead bodies and broken machines. The machines seemed to be very advanced and somehow very different from ordinary machines. The gears, shafts, and mechanisms were not circular, but oval and irregular. Neither were these machines made out of metal. About 75% of their mechanism was fluids and flexible shells. The small creature on which we came out of was like a rodent scraping for some food. Then she took me further away from that location. We were moving in a telescopic style where we glided from one place to another, seeing scenes magnifying and diminishing. We moved to a place where there were what seemed to be ancient, very ancient buildings that were carved out, and into the mountains. They had a very large door. It seemed like giants were living there. The height of the door was about 200 stories high. We shrunk in size and penetrated one of the holes. The hallway was massive, with strange writings and artistic ceiling like in a cathedral. There were giant statues. Everything seemed abandoned. We walked through a wall and appeared in one of the rooms. At first, I didn't recognize a person was laying there because of how massive this person was. Later I realized there was a giant body. Compared to his size, I was as big as his ear. After we glided higher up, I could see this giant being laying in what appeared to be a sleeping stone like those of ancient Egyptian, except this didn't have a top cap. It looked like a bathtub with different symbols and engraved statues on the sides. This giant body was laying on top of it. There was a depressed outline of this giant's body. There was something like fluid covering his body. He was clothed in what appeared to be like a tight suit with different markings and elegant symbols. If you asked me, I could easily tell you this individual was of great importance. Augie told me this person is me. In a sense, I am what is left of him. I started to feel a tingling sensation at the center of my forehead. A glowing yellowish ring of light ejected from my forehead to that giant body. It shot out and entered into the forehead of that giant. Then I started to access his previous memories. The memory before he fell into great slumber. I accessed his memories like an observer. I was observing his memories like watching a movie. The Khabaliz. Looking inside the memories of the entity known as Yulid, who was in a sense myself eons ago. Before I turned into what I am today, these were the moments and memories of this entity. While I was accessing Yulid's memories, I was curious to know more about Yulid during his reign and the lifestyle. These entities were known as Khabaliz. They are very different from us, perceptively. The way they perceive the world around them is fundamentally different. The energy is their primary foundation of reality. So, they collectively perceive activities from beginning to end as one cluster of energy. They don't perform one action at a time but plant energy signatures somewhere so that some activities are initiated. This from my perspective would have seemed like a series of coincidences, but looking from his point of view, there is underlying energy behind every set of events. For example, let's say you want to create a vehicle. First, you would need workforce, necessary material for construction, a set of skills and expertise, and all other necessities for that vehicle to be manufactured. You will then manually organize and coordinate the material, labor, skills, and so on so that the creation of your vehicle is met. But in Yulid's world, a complete set of activities, skills, and knowledge needed to create a vehicle, for example, are only seen as one cluster of energy. What this means is they would directly plant it as an energy seed, where this energy seed contains all the information as a pattern for the vehicle to be manufactured. That way the people would naturally follow the patterns within that cluster of energy of the process of manufacturing a vehicle, instead of doing it manually and directly as we do. And therefore the rate of success or defeat on any project depends entirely on the amount of energy put into the project. If any human visit Yulid's world, they will see them doing similar activities like human beings. The only difference is that in Yulid's world they operate on an energetic level. During the construction of the ancient Egyptian pyramids, for example, there was no single individual who had any prior knowledge of building a pyramid, nor did they have the knowledge of masonry. But it was the similar technique used to construct such marvelous work. They would plant that energy somewhere, then the events and activities will start automatically. Let's take another example of someone wanting to drink water. The intention is to drink water, where this individual is not concerned on how to get to the fridge, or how to move every specific muscle in order to drink water. But they simply do it subconsciously, until the intention is fulfilled. These little activities that leads to the completion of drinking water is only a part of the activities within the intention of drinking water. We can use this simple allegory to understand the modes of operation in Yulid's world. So, in everything they do, they just project an intention in the form of energy, which contains all the information and energy to create what they want, then they let it grow. If they want to create anything, what they do is just collect enough energy to create what they want. And you will find out that they also perform the task like us. The only difference is that those tasks are subtlematic. Just like your muscles move automatically to act, without you specifically moving each muscle consciously. Their physical activities are subtle conscious. The planning of any project, the activities, coordination, communication between each task happens on the subconscious level. This means one person will automatically start to sketch a blueprint of something. They will do it, for fun, as it comes to them as an impression, then someone else will take necessary materials for specific parts of what is to be created. There are always these small tasks that eventually become a larger project without consciously pursuing to knowing the end of it all. They have an omniconscious awareness, where their awareness is connected with all. A psychic would read someone's mind, but a Khabaliz is aware of others' memories and thoughts. In their world, nobody wakes up with a planned day. They just live whatever they feel, they do it, and enjoy as the day unfolds. It may seem like a dangerous and reckless way living without any goals or plans. Someone may be exploited or manipulated, but here that can't happen because, even though they don't have a planned day per se, they are omniconscious aware, where their network of energy is of certain frequencies within the energetic realm, and this energetic realm is in fact their ascent deity. It is like they only tune in a certain radio frequency, where other frequencies cannot interfere unless they are made up of similar frequencies. They don't use an intensive conscious mental effort to live or create anything. They have allowed information to flow in and out of their consciousness without restricting it to specific types of information. When it comes to knowledge, they in a way don't keep the information as an ultimate truth. They just keep the information as is and not a fundamental truth. I also find it interesting because they are not that different from us. We have the same abilities. The problem is the fear has made us sunk deeper into the denser and intense labor world, where everything we do has to be planned with hard work. Usually, things happen without our efforts, but we are worried that it will not happen. In the end, we interfere the process. Anyone can do this, as long as they have tuned in these frequencies where their intentions are based on the goodness of their community. Once you have a community, you create a channel, set an intention. The intention must be pure and of benefit for the entire community. It must be the only thought occupying your mind without any other interference like doubts, fears, and such destructive thoughts. That means your ideals and ideas should always be based on this one thought. Adding other knowledge or theories will only slow you down and create more doubts for your progress. With that in mind, in a situation where any information or knowledge represents itself to you without pursuit, then it is right for you at that time. then you must set an environment where things can manifest naturally. It works best within a community where its members are in harmony with each other. In your daily activities, you become flexible without any specific goals or plans. Let events and activities flow naturally. Whenever you get new ideas, act on them. You will be surprised how it turned out. This is a good starting point. Then we'll learn to let the body act on its own to create something, while you are simply the observer. This is the level on which the Khabaliz are operating. Above all, faith and acceptance is the key factors of living or raising yourself to this state. When you believe that you are living in such a community, then you planted yourself in such a society. When you accept this wholeheartedly without any doubts, then it is growing within you. Don't cling so much into the specific mentality that certain things should be done in a strictly certain ways or life should be in a certain way. You just let go and allow things to be what they are without prejudice. This is the path to ascension, where you have set your inner space as a fresh and fertile ground, and have planted seeds within you for elevation of the self. The environment. It was interesting to find out that people who seemed to be highly spiritual inclined didn't have any plants in their surroundings. It seems like they are living somewhere underground, caves or something of that nature. Their environment doesn't seem to be outside, because everywhere Yulid is, he seems to be in the interior of something. There are structures like building or cathedral, but I still haven't seen him outside in the garden or field. The outside is dark and dirt, full of dead machines and bodies. For this reason, I would conclude that they dwell in the sub-underground facilities. This then got me curious to know how they eat or what types of food they eat. Dieting. After investigating on Kabbalah's dietary system, I was surprised to find out that they don't consume any types of edibles. They don't eat at all. Then I seek to understand the source of their nourishment, on which I later found out to be the sacred breathing. And it seemed that they extract raw material from the earth to digest it through osmosis. Their suits have a mechanism that sucks in soil and supplies it around their skin. Their skins would then suck nutrients of particles little by little like osmosis. In a way, they don't have a concept of dirt. Taking shower would be a huge mistake, because their sweat acts as saliva to them, which makes their skin able to clean itself naturally by sucking in all the dirt on their skins. This would explain why they don't need plants like us. Energy. It clearly shows that energy is very important and something of the primary in the Khabaliz. As I explored more into Yulid's world, I realized that these beings are of energy. Energy is the primary to them. They emphasize the energetic realities of things. To create anything, they tap into the energy realm of things. For example, if they want to create a certain chemical, they play on the energetics of the elementals. Unlike us, we tinkle with things on the physical levels. Energy is perceived as more physical than us. They would see the structure of things on the energetic levels and knows how to modify or tinkle with things at that level. Human energy spectral fields are the patterns, including the aura, that Khabaliz and shepherds can alter to change a person's mental, emotional, and physical state. If someone is angry, he or she would display a certain pattern of colors and movements. They can make someone happy by directly adjusting their human energy spectral field. In addition to that, they can grow new organs, alter genes by just dealing with these energy fields. Because some of the shepherd are victims of war from Khabaliz, they have shared their wealth of sacred energy knowledge with the Rosenthals and have abused this knowledge. Sacred breathing. Then I wanted to know more about sacred breathing. This was the technique used in Yulid's world specifically to recharging their sacred temples. When performing the sacred breathing techniques, it rejuvenates their life force and elongates their lifespan for as long as they want. Here the term lifespan is regarding the cycle of life, that an entity will finish their task to move on to the next and higher form of existence, but to them, it is a conscious act, where they transform their physical matter into finer forms. Their bodies have to be maintained as they preserve the memory of all their experiences. But however, as we will see later, there is also the fall of their divine nature. Sacred breathing is not a product of their culture, it was the technique imported from the Red clan. These Red beings are masters of breathing and postures. They understand the relationship between the flow of air and the flow of energy circuits in and out of the body. Even the manipulation of energy was something borrowed from the Gajubs, as we will see later. The principle behind this technology is that life force flows through anything regularly. There is birth, youth, maturity, old age, and then death. The way nature works is that it follows certain rhythms. These rhythms follow certain sequences. For example, when you are born there is youth, maturity, and then old age. This is a sequence. It is because nature has finished its sequence you then start to decompose, meaning your body has no use. There is no information in your body to tell it what to do next, so your body automatically begins to shut down slowly. But if we are to follow this sequence and add another rhythm of function in that sequence, we will then find out that the human body may take another turn. Instead of starting to decompose, it will either continue to thrive or develop other faculties. It is through the heartbeats and breathing that we can introduce other forms of sequences into the body rhythms. The breathing follows a certain pattern that will let the body induce the body into the state of youthfulness. Trees, if not disturbed, can live a very long time. With special conditions, any biological body can exert into a state of gigantism. The biological body is not as rigid, nor is it fixed into a specific form. If a person can tap into the mastery of using glands, one can transform their biological body into any form they wish. This sacred breathing targets the gland that deals with growth and reproduction. Instead of reproducing, that life force of reproduction is redirected into the regeneration of a person's body. Light stimulates growth, and the earth is what nurtures that growth. Breathing is what brings and generates energy for growth. By consciously breathing a specific youthful energy in and directing into the reproductive temple, energizing and stimulating the growth of youthfulness. And then that energy rises in the stairway to heaven, also known as Jacob's ladder, which is the spinal cord. The spinal cord is the tree of consciousness with nerves spread all over the body. These nerves are like branches with power centers, which are the glands. Glands can produce any type of chemicals when instructed by the brain. You are the controller, the captain at the pineal gland, giving orders on what types of chemicals to produce by using your thoughts and emotions. However, one chooses to control this tower, this body, it's how they will benefit from it. The glands can produce chemicals for growth, and basically, anything to control the body. It follows a chain of commands from nerves to organs, blood to cells, the flow of air and muscle movements. The key here is to take control and occupy your body and establish communication between you and the body. The body communicates to you through feelings. Feelings then generate thoughts and memories related to that specific feeling. If you can entirely shut down these thoughts and dive directly into the world of feelings, then you can communicate with your body easily. The body is the physical version of the mind, the denser version of the mind. If you want faster results, you jump directly into that denser reality of the mind. Note, this information received is related to human physiology. Khabaliz, even though they are similar to human physiology, their bodies are somehow different in many ways. Therefore, the information is translated relatively close to what a human could do. The technique for sacred breathing. You first turn on the light, the inner light, which is the intention. You hold the thought of youthfulness, but holding the thought is not sufficient. Then you power that thought with life, by inhaling life into that intention and wait until that thought becomes a feeling. Then you exhale that feeling by projecting that energy feeling into the lower abdomen, into the center of the reproductive organ. At the reproductive temple, you hold that intent feeling there for a bit and release it to the entire body. You do this until it becomes a habit. Then the body takes it as part of its system. It is just that simple. Anyone can practice this. Within a week or so you should begin to see the positive results. Your wrinkles will disappear. Your body will become stronger. Your mind will become sharper. And all other youthful symptoms. Sacred emblems. As I navigated in the memories of Yulid, I find the concept of emblems and sacred emblems. I then wanted to understand more about the emblems and sacred emblems. What they are used for, and of course how to get them. Before I explain these sacred emblems, it is important to understand that in the Yulid's world, they wear these types of suits. These suits consist of a thin inner layer and a hard external layer. It feels like it is metallic. Their suits enable them to perform some tasks which they would not be able to do them with regular clothing. The type of tasks they perform with the suits are, such as collecting energies from their surroundings, creating energetic force fields around them, and many other purposes even during combat. But those with different tasks like a priestess use them to fashion primal energies into something useful. There is a difference between an emblem and a sacred emblems. The emblems can be fashioned by someone. Where it is just an energetic device, then it is housed in something like a talisman. These emblems are mostly used with their suits. Sacred emblems, however, are instruments that are given. They are also made of energy, but are composed of sacred beings, which is an energetic being that inhabits these sacred emblems. These sacred beings are like what we understand as mythical beings like dragons, phoenix, and so on. So for sacred emblems, they are not just mechanisms of energy like a regular emblem, but a house of a divine being. Sacred emblems embed themselves inside one's body, while emblems are embedded into their suits or worn outside of their bodies. In addition to that, an emblem can also be embedded on individual's suit by just inscribing some writings on them. The suits worn by the Khabaliz varies depending on the rank and the task an individual has accordingly. These suits are integrated into their biological bodies, where they respond directly to their thoughts and emotions. A Khabaliz can control the chemical state, energy levels, temperature, and chemical mechanics of their suits with their intention. Emblems are embedded in their suits to enhance and add more functions to their suits. They have to be trained, or rather initiated first, before they get the emblems. So, in a way, emblem structure has deeper dimensions, where there is an inner energetic structure and the physical structures. At a glance, an emblem would look like an ice crystal with cyclical shapes and patterns. Some would mistake them easily with talismans. Emblems have polarities on which connects to the electromechanical circuit of their suits. That means they are integrated into the information systems, mechanism systems, and chemical systems of their suits. It has not always been this way. Back in the ancient times it was not done this way. They were more organic, where they simply grow into a person's body. The simple way to explain this is the same way when a person is infected by a bug inside their bodies. These bugs begin to make this individual sick. So instead of making someone sick, these bugs increase a person's ability, like being able to see remote places, being able to jump higher, etc. But because of the decline, they have been forced to use mechanical means to improve their lives. And then when we talk about spiritual gifts, they are similar things. Just at this stage, they are only orbs of light that enters into a person. Then the person starts to perform miracles like the gift of healing, remote sensing, knowing the thoughts of others, etc. How the Khabaliz obtains their emblems is they would first become initiated, where they go through a series of tests. This is to find out if they are worthy of them, will not misuse them, and the compatibility issue. It means the emblems might not be compatible with a person by straining on the individual, draining their life force, or becoming too weak for a person. It is the function of the high priest that offers a general benediction. Usually, if a person has been called to receive a sacred emblem, they would have something similar to a dream, where they see celestial animal or something of divine nature that talk to them, play with them, and teaching them things. They then present their dreams to their priest. The priest would test the validity of their dreams, and then they would decide to proceed with the process of inviting these beings in their inner spaces. It is these celestial animals and general benediction that makes these emblems sacred, as they are given and choose a person. They are not something that someone can simply work to earn or pursue to get. Ulid was suspended into a test for several days, testing his mental strength. It is similar to that procedure where a person has to undergo a certain process so that they can receive their emblems. If they pass the test, they are then receiving a ceremony for initiation, and an emblem is planted into their systems. Then someone similar to Ironsmith would receive the emblem structure, which here is similar to Emblem's blueprint. To fashion the house for an emblem. It is interesting how they find these blueprint. It's something like developing a photograph. They take a snapshot of the energetic field around that person in a special room where they can see the structure of that emblem. They then shrink it to fit the dedicated location around their body. It could be on the chest, 4 limbs, the back of their heads, etc. They then imprint it on the metallic type shape so that their suits can receive and coordinate with their energetic field. These suits act as energy magnifiers. They magnify the mental energies and protect their biofield, so that whatever is integrated into their energetic spectral field has to be upgraded on their suits. These suits act as a lens. The function of a lens is to magnify light, so is their suits. I find their lifestyle very simple with an underlying complexity in it. Their technical skills are not as technologically advanced as we are because most things are handmade. These suits are similar to going into a tailor where they measure your body size to fashion cloth for you. When it comes to making their metallic suits, they just molds an outline of a person's body into segments that can be joined into one suit. The material used are not even real metal, because they mix different chemical compounds and leave it for several days, then it becomes hard with shiny and metallic properties. I find it interesting because they don't even use fire in their daily activities. Taking a scenario where an ordinary person is receiving an emblem. The way these emblems are structured is not like a simple item such as a talisman. It has dimensions into it. We have emblems in our society, just that we can't comprehend their existence, as they are out of the scope of our understanding. Assume someone is a genius. Let's say it's Steve Jobs, the inventor of an iPhone. We fail to see the connection between this person and his company, and it doesn't end there. His connections to his mental structure for him to access those inventive ideas to be able to invent something like an iPhone. You will find out that this person is simply in the right place at the right time to achieve his intentions. If it was someone else who wanted to create similar thing, they could not have all the necessary skills, money, resources, etc. to be able to bring the process into fruition, because in the energetic level they don't have an emblem. The entirety of the whole process is an emblem. So when someone receives an emblem, from activation to maturity, takes time, and this is where we fail to see these emblems. So in a situation where an individual receives an emblem, they will have all the necessary skills, connections, and a suitable environment to accomplish a certain task. Again, this verifies the Kabbalah's methods of doing things. They are more like planters of things. They let things reveal themselves from the onset. So, if anyone wants to receive emblems, take into account first if you are worthy of receiving it, and then the time for you to wait until it comes into completion. Kabbalah's pace of time is not similar to ours. It allows them to see the progress of things more easily than us. And these emblems are things that grow in the energetic field, which is clearly visible by them.